Hey guys, this is Editor Garrett here. Before we get into the Super Bowl 59 preview, I wanted to let you guys know about a project that I'm going to be working on that should be coming out next week called the Shumake Take Awards, where I will host or mock host my own show where I give my awards for MVP, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year, and whatnot, along with some other fun ones that I came up with myself. So stay tuned for it. I will make a community post at some point during the week to remind everybody, but wanted to let you guys know right now I forgot to do it in the video, so here it is first. But now I'm officially done. Enjoy the Super Bowl 59 preview, guys.
All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is the Shumake Take Super Bowl 59 preview. 32 teams down to 2 to decide who will be number 1 in New Orleans, which, by the way, if you guys are noticing, I'm wearing like a polo shirt. Maybe you can kind of tell, I don't know, but there's a bunch of trumpets, trombones, a bunch of instruments that you use in jazz. I got this shirt when I was in New Orleans when I turned 22 back in May, and I haven't had an opportunity to wear this shirt until right now. I figured, hey, Super Bowl 59's in New Orleans, might as well pop out the New Orleans shirt that I got, repping the jazz, repping the culture. Love jazz music. I love playing it too. It's a lot of fun. Either way, we're not here to talk about jazz. We're here to talk about Super Bowl 59. And I just want to go straight into this. First and foremost, how I'm going to talk about each team. I'm going to mention their record, their offense and defense, their losses, key stats to the game, or key stats for their team, keys to victory, and then we'll just do that. And when it'll make a little bit more sense as I'm getting into it. But first things first, this game will come down to three major things. Three things that are most important to this game for both teams. Number one, who wins on third down? Third down is going to be so important, and I've talked about third down and its importance many times throughout the year, because the team that sustains the most drives, I think, will win this game. So being able to win on third down is paramount for both of these teams. Secondly, the second thing that it will come down to is how much these offenses balance out. Because for one reason or for another, whether it's for the Chiefs or the Eagles, which we'll get into their specific reasons when we talk about each team, both of these offenses are going to have to do well in the pass and in the run. For their own respective reasons, they both will have to do well if they want to win this game. But flat out, both. You're not going to be able to pass or run a whole bunch of times and only do a little bit of the other one. You're going to have to be able to do both. And then the third key, it'll come down to which defense makes the most plays. Seriously. There's a reason why defense wins championships. As much as we've talked about offense, as much as we talk about, getting the quarterback, the young offensive-minded head coach, as much as we talk about how much the NFL has shifted into an offensive league, defense still wins championships. And I think defense will play a huge role in this game. Not just because both of these defenses are top units in the NFL. They are. But also, both of these units are really good at playing at really big moments. All year, these two teams have shown that. So, whichever defense comes up bigger is the team that's going to win this game. But let's get right into our first team. In this corner, we have the AFC champion KFC. The Kansas City Chiefs, standing at a 15-2 record with a 16th ranked offense and a 9th ranked overall defense. Their only losses on the year were to Buffalo halfway through it and then Denver at the end. Denver, they did rest their starters against this team, against Denver. The Kansas City Chiefs rested their starters. So not a lot of people played of significance. So that doesn't really count, I would say, for the starters wise. The second one against Buffalo. Well, the first loss, it was a tough loss. Really tough loss. But that was their only two losses on the year. Key stats for the Kansas City Chiefs. These stats that the Chiefs have, I think, will be most important to this game narrative-wise. Number one, Kansas City is 8th against the run. And they've held running backs to 3.8 yards per carry. That is second in the NFL out of all teams. that does not bode well for Saquon Barkley. The Chiefs, what they've done so well on defense is being able to stop the run. And when you stop the run, that's when you can get into really getting after the quarterback, and where Steve Spagnuolo thrives his best in being able to generate pressure from anywhere at any given spot, any given time. He knows exactly when to dial up pressure, and stopping the run has been the big forefront of that. Although there is a caveat. While they've held running backs to 3.8 yards per carry, which is second in the NFL, I wasn't able to find where the rank is for the stat, but they've allowed quarterbacks to run for 4.9 yards a carry. That is a low number for quarterbacks, but the thing is, 4.9 yards a carry is still really good for chain moving. Which quarterback doesn't have a lot of explosive runs downfield, but has a lot of runs to set up easy situations? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, is a top 3 quarterback when it comes to running quarterbacks in the NFL. He is top 3 at just being able to run and set up favorable situations. He's not going to give you these big explosive plays very often, but he's going to make sure he takes care of the football, and he is able to put his offense in positions to get on second and short, get in third and short, and move the chains, right? Make a play that gets down inside to the red zone. He's good at making favorable situations for his offense. That's what he's really good at. And so 4.9 yards a carry is not that much for running backs, but for quarterbacks, but for Jalen Hurts, that's too much. That is simply too much. Fourth, they are 18th against the pass, compared to 8th against the run. Even though Trent McDuffie is a really good corner, outside of that, they've had their struggles in pass defense this year. And the Eagles, their strong suit is running the ball well, and they don't pass the ball very much. We'll talk about more about that in a second, how that relates to them. But the fifth and sixth key stat for the Kansas City Chiefs in one-score games. The Kansas City Chiefs this year are 11-0, and in games where the winner won by multiple scores, they are 5-2. So their 2 losses came when the team scored more, was able to get up ahead of them by multiple scores. But they also won 5 games in that scenario. Throughout the beginning of the year, even at the end of the year, they were able to do it throughout the year multiple times. So, for the Kansas City Chiefs, what's their keys to victory here? I have 7. I have 7 keys to victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. Number one above all else for Kansas City, you have to contain Philly's defensive line. While getting after the pass rush, or getting after the pass, the pass rush is not the Eagles' strong suit on their defense. Stopping the run is where it's at. They are really, really, really good at stopping the run. They're even better at stopping the pass. But this Eagles defensive line thrives off of stopping the run because their edge rushers, Josh Sweat is really good. Nakobe Dean, he's good, but he's young. This is not the greatest edge duo in the NFL. It's a really good one, but it's not top tier. The Eagles, their beef is in the interior of the defensive line. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, all those guys they have there in rotation, the depth, they have really good depth at that area. That's where the beef of this defensive line is. That is where they're at their best. It's where they're at their strongest. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have been great at collapsing the interior of offensive lines all year long. So being able to contain this group is paramount because you can't let them get after Patrick Mahomes. Of course, that's an easy thing to do. That's an easy thing to say. But now you have the Eagles defensive line, these defensive tackles that can really collapse this interior. Now the Chiefs offensive line, their strong suit is in the interior with Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, right? Joe Tooney's now playing left tackle, so he's no longer at guard, but he might swing in there a couple times. I could see that happening. So there's a really good matchup there. But at the same time, the Chiefs offensive line hasn't gone up against the power and sheer size, athleticism, and power of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis as a duo. They're probably the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL, straight up. So being able to contain this defensive line, absolutely priority number one for the Chiefs if they want to do what they need to do. And mentioning how good the Eagles are at stopping the run, right? That's where this defensive line is at their best. You're going to have to be able to run the football on them at least a little bit, because the Eagles, while they're good against the run, they're the best in the NFL against the pass. And the Chiefs, their strong side is throwing the football. But you're going to have to run the ball and challenge them there at least a little bit. At least make an effort to run the ball and be, genuine about it. Because the Eagles, this number one pass defense is no joke. While I think there's vulnerabilities in the secondary with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell as rookies in this moment, in this specific game, they're still a really fantastic unit. Quinyon Mitchell, defensive rookie of the year, straight up in my opinion. There's no one that can, I shouldn't say there's no one that compares, but it's Quinyon Mitchell and then everybody else. That being said, he is a rookie, right? So this is a big moment for him. He's also come out of Toledo, so he's not a guy that's been known to play in these big games. We'll talk about more of that here when we mention Philly, or not even mention Philly. Well, yeah, we'll mention Philly. Either way, being able to run the ball is paramount, because I expect the Eagles passing game, or Eagles passing game, no. I expect the Eagles pass defense to make a few plays on these receivers, right? I expect them to be sticky. I expect them to make it hard at points to throw this football. You're going to have to be able to run the ball at least somewhat to take some pressure off. And also, that's you're going against the best pass defense versus the 8th ranked run defense. That's your matchup. That's a favorable, not really a favorable matchup, but it's the more favorable out of the two. You got to take that matchup. Key number 3, on defense, you have to win on third down. Especially on defense. The Chiefs' third down offense is ranked second in the NFL to the Eagles' third. This is going to be a big matchup right there, but I expect that to go back and forth a little bit. But for the Chiefs, the Eagles' third down offense is ranked 10th in the NFL. The Chiefs' third down defense is 26th. They're one of the worst in the NFL at getting off the field on third down. So they absolutely have to dominate and balance that out, because like I mentioned, the Eagles' third down offense or third down defense is third, and the Chiefs' third down offense is second. So that matchup is neck and neck. You got to take that matchup between the Eagles' third down offense and your third down defense and balance that out just like the other side of the ball. You're going to have to just win on third down and not let the Eagles sustain drives. You can't let them sustain drives. The Eagles are one of the best in the NFL at it, and that's not just because they convert on third down. They're really, really good at being efficient. Their efficiency numbers are through the freaking roof. So being able to get off the field on third down will bring those numbers down and give you more opportunities to go score on this defense. The fourth one, you're going to have to minimize turnovers, because while the Chiefs they've been great. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL at minimizing turnovers. They're 4th in the NFL, and they've only committed 1 turnover this entire postseason. But the Eagles, they are 6th in takeaways this year, and this postseason alone, they have 10. They have 10 this postseason. That's a fourth of what they got in the regular season in the span of 3 games. It's ridiculous what this defense has been able to do at getting after the football and taking it away. So if you minimize the turnovers, then you minimize the opportunities for Philly to kind of jump you and overtake you, which will go into key number 7, which we'll get to in a moment. But key number 5, you got to stop Saquon Barkley. That's a matchup that should be kind of favorable. You have a good run defense. That's where this Chiefs defense is obviously at its best. Take care of business there. Really just got to take care of business. That's where you work best. That's where Philly works best. You got to be able to win that matchup. But more importantly, you got to stop Jalen Hurts from running. And it goes right into being able to win on third down defense. How you win on third down defense and get off the field, how you win there is being able to get the Eagles in third and long situations. But the Eagles are one of the best at getting into these second and short, third and short, fourth and short situations where they almost always convert and get a first down. That is where they're at their best. So stopping Jalen Hurts from running and making this offense more efficient is imperative, like paramount, imperative, whatever words you want to use. And the seventh key, which kind of goes into everything here, you want to keep this game in one possession, because the Chiefs, they're 11-0 in one-score games, but this is where they have made their money. I'm sure, yeah, like they've looked good in their games where they've won by multiple scores, like against Pittsburgh, against Houston in the regular season, the Saints they beat by 10, right? Like they've looked good in those games, right? But where their bread and butter has been all year is the one possession games. There's a reason why they haven't lost a game yet. And even though it's 2 losses compared to 0, that is where you have statistically done better. So keeping it in a one-score game allows you to keep things in your favor. The idea here is making sure that you're in control, right? Even though you may be in a one-possession game, the Chiefs have been in control of almost all of those. And being able to just stay on the field and just stay ahead, that's all you got to do. So those are my keys for the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are my key stats for the Kansas City Chiefs. That is how they match up in this game. And we move to the right corner. The NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, the number 2 seed, standing at a 14-3 record. Offense is ranked 8th overall, and their defense is ranked 1st. The best defense in the NFL. Kansas City's going up against in this game. Their losses: Week 2, the Atlanta Falcons. Week 4 against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of those games were without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. That is huge. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are in this game. Those 2 guys not being in those games were a big reason why they lost. And then Washington, layered the second time at the end of the year. It was a last-second comeback, but Jalen Hurts was out of this game with a concussion. So all those games can be attributed to missing very big, important players on their offense, which led to losses. But key stats: there are 3 big ones for the Eagles. First one, the Eagles' defense is first against the pass. They are objectively the best in the NFL at stopping the pass. What we've seen Darius Slay do, he's been great. But to see the emergence of Quinyon Mitchell, who's Defensive Rookie of the Year to me, and Cooper DeJean, who's played really well. You have Reed Blankenship on the back end and strong safety. You have really, really good players, and they have they've been an iron wall. They've been a no-fly zone. Like, they have been really, really good at stopping the pass. And the thing with the Chiefs, that is where their strong suit is. But you look at their receivers, Xavier Worthy, he's a rookie. Hollywood Brown, not a lot of high-end playmaking ability, but he is reliable. Then you have, Juju Smith-Schuster, who was announced to be their 3rd starting receiver, reliable veteran. DeAndre Hopkins, reliable veteran. But these guys aren't particularly explosive, except for Xavier Worthy. These guys aren't known for their explosion like they used to be in their primes, right? Talking about Brown, Hopkins, and Smith-Schuster. And then, of course, you have Travis Kelce, who is the big, reliable tight end that always shows up when it matters. That being said, it's not just the pass defense for Philly in the secondary that's really good. These linebackers are also really good in coverage. Zach Bond, one of the best in the NFL, right? So it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge stopping the pass for Philly, but they have the juice to make it happen. Along with that, they're 10th versus the run. A top 10 unit against the run. They still pair up really well with Kansas City, who their rushing numbers are in the 20s. Not that great. So that's another matchup, big one, that favors well for Philly. And the third one, which is really important to me, they're last in pass attempts in the NFL, but they're first in rush attempts. No team runs more than the Philadelphia Eagles do. No team runs more. And likewise, Philly doesn't pass any more than any other team, which is interesting because you never really see like a type of a drastic jump like this. You don't see that disparity very often at all. But it is something to note, and it will play a key role here. The first key to victory for the Eagles, I have 7 here as well for them. Number 1, above all else, contain Patrick Mahomes. It'll go make a little bit more sense in key number 4 when we roll back to it, but being able to contain Patrick Mahomes is everything. I mean, I've already talked about what it means to contain Patrick Mahomes. I won't elaborate any further than what I need to, but I will say this. If Patrick Mahomes gets out, something is going to go wrong. Something will go wrong, so don't even throw a spy on him. Oren Burks, Zach Bond, these linebackers, spy on him all game long. And if I'm rushing Patrick Mahomes, I would use a lot of corner blitz. I would use Cooper DeJean. I would use Reed Blankenship. I would get these guys with a lot of speed and a lot of juice. I would get them involved too and really try and speed up Patrick Mahomes' game. Don't let him get comfortable and don't slow the game down for him. Secondly, you got to win big in the red zone on offense and defense. They have the 10th. Eagles offense is ranked 10th in the red zone compared to their 5th on defense. The Chiefs' red zone defense is 8th, while on offense, they're 22nd. So the Chiefs' defense has a more favorable matchup in the red zone, which on offense, if you're Philly, you got to be able to score points and get touchdowns. And if you're there, you got to score. Simple as that. But also, for the Eagles, on offense, or for the Eagles on defense, like I said, they're ranked number 5. The Chiefs are ranked 22nd on their side of the ball on offense. That's a matchup where you need to hold them. You've been great at holding teams all year to that and get 3 points and force 3 points. If you can get touchdowns when you're in the red zone and force 3 points when the Chiefs offense is in the red zone, you're going to win this game. Winning in the red zone is going to be so important for the Eagles as much as it is for the Chiefs on defense to win on third down. That's why I put them as key number 2 on each side, because they're equally as important for these respective teams. Number 3, while the Chiefs are to minimize turnovers, you are to create turnovers. The thing is, the Chiefs are not good at making mistakes. But look, the Rams and the Chiefs were tied for 4th fewest turnovers in the NFL. Remember what the Eagles did to LA? They forced 2 fumbles in the second half. One of them was in the 4th quarter at a critical moment in the game, and they were able to get points off of it. Try and do that again. Forcing fumbles. You're probably not going to pick off Patrick Mahomes, if we're being entirely honest. But where you can really get them is to force that ball out, punch it out. They've forced so many fumbles this postseason. I think they've forced more fumbles than they have interceptions. So that's going to be huge for them. Not to mention, they've also held teams to 6 of 10 on 4th down, which is a 60% chance. That's favorable to the offense. But, I mean, most of the times these teams have gone for it on 4th down, they were near the end of the game, right? So that's where it's really going to matter there, in my opinion. But key number 4, which goes back to key number 1, which is containing Patrick Mahomes. You know, it's not just containing Patrick Mahomes. You got to contain this pass game. And more specifically, secondary discipline. Because as good as Quinyon Mitchell and as good as Cooper DeJean has been all year, here's the thing. You're going up against the best quarterback in the NFL at making plays happen and playing out of structure and buying time. And what happens, why these happen all the time, Patrick Mahomes runs around, does his thing, makes people miss, right? And then the secondary, they have to run even more to keep with these receivers and not let them get open. And considering that Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are rookies, and you're going up against the best quarterback in the business at cooking you when the play breaks down, you have to just stay sticky with these receivers from whistle to whistle. You cannot afford to lose your man. You can't. You simply cannot. That is a huge exploit that I think the Chiefs are going to look at. If the play breaks down, he's going to be looking at, okay, Quinyon Mitchell is on Hollywood Brown, okay? DeJean is sitting on Kelsey. All right, these guys, they're rookies. You can get them here in a vulnerable state. This is why when I talk about Philly's passing defense being the best, this is the vulnerability that I was talking about. The fact that they are rookies and going against the best in the business, that is a matchup. Quite frankly, I would say that's a matchup nightmare. So if this defensive line can't do their job and contain Patrick Mahomes, and they cannot get pressure and throw him off his rhythm, he will run around and he will make these corners, these rookie corners, look silly. He's going to do that. So it's paramount to make sure this secondary keeps their discipline and is able to run with their receivers past when the play should be over. When a play breaks down, I do not want to see Patrick Mahomes making plays down the field. I don't want to see that. It's going to happen a couple of times, fine, but this cannot be a constant issue. And if it becomes a constant issue, it's going to be really hard for the Eagles to win this game, straight up. Key number 5, Saquon Barkley can eat, but this passing game is going to have to carry this team. Look, I firmly believe that the Chiefs' defensive line is going to slow down Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is not going to run for 120 plus in this game. I firmly believe that. He's not going to. So he'll probably run for 80 to 100 yards, give or take, maybe a couple of touchdowns. But he is not. Saquon Barkley, we've looked at Saquon Barkley make these big, momentum shifting long runs in the playoffs. He's not doing that against Kansas City Chiefs, guys. The Chiefs' run defense, if it's one thing the Chiefs are really good at, it's the fact that they know how to attack where there's people's strong side. Not only can they attack the weaknesses, but they also attack where an offense does best and really challenge their philosophy. So, with that being said, the Eagles are going to have to win passing the ball. Saquon Barkley is going to put up some decent numbers at least. But expecting Saquon Barkley to carry the rock 30 times and just put the team on his back again, that's not going to work. It's simply not going to work. So Jalen Hurts in his passing game needs to step up big time. And look, the Chiefs' defense on third down is not very good. We went over that. We talked about Jalen Hurts and his ability to run with the football. He can create plays and play out of structure himself very well. And like I mentioned, he can run for short yardage here and there and really set his offense up in favorable situations. So the passing game should be able to get going easily, and I expect them to get it going early and often, or early as well as often, But at the same time, going into key number 6, you got to be who you are. Don't not feed Saquon, because at that point, you're playing right into the Chiefs' hands. Because the last thing you want is for them to stop the run and then make it that much easier for them to stop the passing game. And at that point, now the Chiefs have your momentum, they have your number, and that's going to be a very hard thing to overcome. So you still got to be who you are. You still got to give the rock to Saquon Barkley, 20 plus times. Don't be like Baltimore. Don't be like Baltimore against Buffalo and not giving Derrick Henry enough carries. Don't be like Buffalo and not run the ball enough with James Cook. You have to run the ball. That is what you do best. Be who you are. Do not stray from that. Despite the fact that Kansas City will slow down this running game, you still have to stick with it to a certain extent. You can't just not give Saquon Barkley the ball at all, right? Like, the most plays I want to see Saquon Barkley go without a touch is maybe, 3. Like, if there's a drive or there's a series where Saquon Barkley only touches the ball a couple of times, no, that's not going to be good enough. He has to touch the ball at least 3 or 4 times every drive on the field. He's going to have to. And then key number 7, here's the big one. Going into the Chiefs and their 5-2 record when the winner won by multiple scores. If the Eagles get ahead, by all means necessary, you get ahead and you stay ahead. Stay ahead. If you have a lead, if it's a 1-2 score lead, that gas pedal needs to be down at all times. The quicker that you can score, the more efficiently, the more times you can have the lead and score points and get up bigger, you need to capitalize on that. You have to. Like I mentioned with the Chiefs, they're 11-0 in 1-score games. This is where they are at their peak. So if you get ahead, you have to make sure that you get more points and stay ahead. Make the Chiefs play from behind. If you can make the Chiefs play from behind, guess what you do? That you eliminate the run game. You force them to pass more, which in a situation where it's one-dimensional, it is that much easier to stop the pass. And the Eagles have the talent to neutralize the threats they have on offense at receiver. They're not great. The matchup is there for Philly. The matchup breaks down if the Chiefs can run the ball a little bit and Patrick Mahomes is able to break contain and run out of structure. If you can just get ahead and stay ahead, that does a lot to helping a lot of these other keys for Philly to win this game and stopping the Chiefs' keys to win their part of, or to win the game for them, right? So that's the big thing. And then I'm going to add a bonus 8th key, and I've said it for every opponent going up against Kansas City this postseason. Minimize the penalties. Now, before people go after me and they're like, oh, well, the referees, they're going to, not give the call to the Chiefs. They're going to give a bunch of calls to Philly. Remember the holding call at the end of Super Bowl 57? And I remember, everybody remembers, regardless, that was a hold. That was a hold. Was it a, ticky-tack? Yeah, but it was definitely a hold. It fell in the textbook. So for Philly, minimize penalties. Just don't make any dumb mistakes. Just don't. I've already talked about it enough of the why you cannot make dumb mistakes and get penalties. So, once again, do not commit penalties against Kansas City because they will hurt you. Regardless of what you think about the Chiefs not getting calls, well, guess what? If the Eagles get calls, they're going to make it harder. So, guess what? Just playing as clean as you can is just do it. Just do it. I don't care what it has to take. Just play clean ball. Just don't screw that up. If you screw this up, almost everything else in this game plan that I have for Philly will fall apart. So minimize the penalties, please. Before I make my final prediction, as I check my time here, I'm at 31. Okay, that's perfect. Anyways, back to the case in point. Before I pick my winner, there's 2 things I want to mention. 2 key stats. Or 2 key things that I want you to keep track of in this game. Here's the thing. Both of these teams have a top 5 scoring defense. Do not expect very many offensive fireworks. This will not be a shootout. This will not be a high-scoring Super Bowl at all. It's not. I don't know what the over-under is on sports betting, but if I were you, I would take the under. Seriously. I do not expect the offenses to be consistently great in this game. I simply don't. Both of these defenses are phenomenal, and I intend for them to be so in this game as well. Secondly, if you want an interesting fact, Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. And like the entire time they faced off against each other. Now, granted, a lot of that time was when Vic Fangio was the head coach in Denver, right? So, in these games that Patrick Mahomes has gone up against Vic Fangio, he has literally taken apart their defense every single time and played fantastic every time. So, that'll be a thing to look at and to see how well the Philadelphia Eagles defense matches up against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's going to be an interesting... It's all going to be an interesting matchup. I've already been over it. But those are the 2 big things that I want you guys to keep track of in this game. But ultimately, who do I have winning Super Bowl 59? With a score of 27-24. Yes, I'm putting a score prediction in for this. I'm going to try. I'm going to see what happens. But winning 27-24, I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game, completing the three-peat. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I cannot not pick the Chiefs in good faith. Because, look, the Chiefs are in a dynasty. They are the best team of this generation right now. You look at the Patriots, right? You look at the Cowboys in the 90s, 49ers in the 80s, the Steelers in the 70s. You look at what defined these dynasties. What defined them wasn't their wins. What defined them was the fact that no matter what happened, they found ways to win. And there's a reason why when we talked about the Patriots for 20 years, we said it's the Patriots until it isn't. We talked about the Cowboys, it's them until it isn't. The 49ers, it's the 49ers until it isn't. Every dynasty, it is them until it isn't. Even though the Eagles have a better team objectively across the board, almost compared to Kansas City, Kansas City's the dynasty team. So when you're going up against Kansas City, regardless if you're a better football team on paper or not, you are the underdog. You are the underdog, and It's the Chiefs until it isn't. As much as I want Philly to win this game, and personal bias to like take over here, as I'm being honest and candid with you guys, the Chiefs are going to win this game. Because why? First one, the Chiefs are going to slow down Saquon Barkley and really challenge that Eagles philosophy to run the football. And I fear that this offense will not be ready to make the adjustment because they never were really challenged at all year long. They were not. Saquon Barkley has been dominant in every game he's been in. And they're going to be challenged really well for the first time. And in that situation, it is really hard to adapt. When you do something great literally every single week and then one game pops in and then all of a sudden it gets challenged, that's hard to overcome. But if I'm Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, the game plan is to let Saquon eat, but for this passing game to really take this offense and put them over the top to win this game. And I'm hoping that they have a plan for that. I would assume that they did, because if they didn't, they're going to lose. But honestly, again, Kansas City, they're going to slow it down, and they're going to challenge the Eagles' philosophy at least a little bit. And I fear they may not make that adjustment. I hope they do, but if they don't make that adjustment, they're going to lose. Secondly, the rookies in the secondary for Philly will get cooked from time to time, at least when a play breaks down. It's going to happen at least a few times, and I expect one of these corners to make a critical penalty at the end of the game. I expect that to happen. I'm sorry. As cliche as that sounds, and as much as people are going to roll their eyes, I expect this secondary, the rookies Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in this moment, I expect them to make a couple mistakes. I don't expect them to play perfect, and you shouldn't either. These guys are rookies that are in the biggest game of their lives. I mean, it's in the biggest game of their lives for everybody that's playing, coaching, players, whatever. But compared to most other players, at least, that's not a good point. Never mind. I'm going to leave that on the table. But that being said, these rookies are going to be challenged, and they're going to allow a couple plays. I think when push comes to shove, when you want to talk about, who's better in the pressure situations, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best. He's simply the best. There's no doubting that. And then the third one, which is Patrick Mahomes, he always makes the play when it matters most. When it matters most, he comes in the clutch and makes a play. It's the Kansas City Chiefs until it isn't. That's the fact. They're the dynasty. It's a fact, and I hate to say it, but it's true. And you all know it's true. As much as you hate the Chiefs, as much as everyone dislikes how much they win, that's the truth. It's the simple truth, and it applies to every other dynasty in NFL history. But with that being said, that is going to be my Super Bowl preview. If you guys liked and enjoyed the video, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Wait. We need to go back. When I go back, we can't end. If you guys enjoyed the Super Bowl preview, though, make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that stuff. But for those of you that want to stay, I have news. We got the news. So we'll talk a little bit about news here at the end of the show. But for those of you that came here for just a Super Bowl preview, if you made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. Again, for the third time, like and subscribe. You guys are going to hear it a fourth time if you stay through to the very end. And make sure to like the video. Oh my God, I already said that. No, we're not going on a fifth time. No, so do those two things, right? Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, share the video with your friends by word of mouth, on social media, whatever that may be. But that is it for the Super Bowl preview. But we now got to move on to the news. We got news. I think from now on, I'm going to save this to the very end of an episode instead of like at the start. Like going into the offseason, that's going to be mostly news and predictions versus reality. That's the videos that are going to come out. But in situations like this where like we're talking about the game first or like recapping the game first, right? We'll put the news at the bottom because, that's kind of like, people are here for the Super Bowl preview. They're not here for news. So I'm not going to put the news first. That's not the most important thing here. So here we are. We're at news. Transition time. Bam. Okie dokie, guys. Let's get into it. For those of you that want to hear the news, well, here we go. It's the news. The news starting with breaking today as of recording this video. Myles Garrett, edge rusher for the Cleveland Browns, has requested a trade. What? Oh my gosh. He posted a very heartfelt thing on social media saying that he wants to go win a Super Bowl. That's his ultimate goal. And he's requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns. And quite frankly, the Cleveland Browns announced that they have no plans to trade him. No, don't do this. If you're Cleveland, don't do this. I get that you want to keep Myles Garrett there, and I would do everything to keep him there. But simply put, the Browns aren't going to be in a position to be competing for a Super Bowl anytime soon. And for Myles Garrett, well, he is in the prime of his career, and he wants to win a Super Bowl. So do the right thing and trade Myles Garrett, because trying to hold him hostage, don't do like what the Jets did with Hassan Reddick. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's what dysfunctional, terrible organizations do. If your player wants a trade, do everything you can to try and keep him there. And if he truly wants a trade, just do right by him and trade him. But the question is, who could get Myles Garrett realistically? Because not only is he a defensive player of the year candidate, he's one defensive player of the year, he's top 3 edge rusher in the NFL. I mean, he is going to get a massive haul. So if you're Cleveland, you got to make sure you get everything. But that being said, who could trade for him? Honestly, a team that I would really love to see him go to is Detroit. Because Detroit, they have their roster just about set, right? They really just need a couple pieces. And one of the big things that they need is an edge rusher to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. And I don't know about you, but if I'm an offensive coordinator and I'm going up against Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett, that's going to keep me up at night. That will keep offensive coaches up at night trying to figure out how to game plan for that. That's deadly. That's literally deadly stuff right there, dude. So I would love that. Any team, honestly, that has a good defense that's in the playoffs, right? Or like a playoff team that has a really good defense. Washington, no, Washington wouldn't be a good fit because they still need to build out their roster. Like, if you're talking about like the best of the best, like the most complete teams in the NFL, Detroit, Baltimore, although they won't trade to a division rival, that's not going to happen. Philly's possible. Just because, Howie Roseman's a wizard, so, who knows? He'd probably conjure up some magic and get him over there. And good God, if Myles Garrett goes to the Browns or goes to the Eagles, oh, Lord. At that point, just pencil the Eagles in and going back to the Super Bowl, bro. At that point. But who else? I don't know who else would be there. But the thing is, this is huge. Because having one of the top edge rushers on the market available could cause a lot of sparks to happen. Because another guy that I'm expecting that could be traded is Max Crosby. Because even though he's kind of an untouchable, look at where the the Raiders are. They're in a rebuild. They don't got a quarterback. They're not in position to get a quarterback. So maybe you trade up to 3, 2, or 1 to get a QB, and you might have to send them Max Crosby in a trade if you want to move up and you're really sold on one of these guys. Right? So there's that. Maybe you get a veteran, which is probably the most likely scenario for the Raiders. But again, back to Myles Garrett, this is huge. Absolutely huge. And I hope the team that trades for him, they're getting a good player. And I just hope Cleveland does right by him, trade him, and make sure you get a good enough haul for him. Myles Garrett's worth at least 2 first-round picks, probably a second and a third, and a couple other late-round picks. And so it's going to be a big trade. But now it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, in my opinion. Speaking of trades, the Rams are actively trying to trade Cooper Kupp as of right now. So they're working on it. Well, they can't really... Can they work on it? Or is that tampering? That's a good question. Is that tampering? It might be. I'm not sure. Regardless, they are going to be trying to trade him very quickly. So Cooper Kupp is now on the market. So if you want a quick, shifty, reliable veteran receiver, well, here you go. You got Cooper Kupp. And people have already made memes about him going to Tennessee because he's constantly hurt. Well, there you go. That's a good destination. That's a good fit for them, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. Although Tennessee does need some receivers, so maybe you get a reliable slot guy. Maybe that works out for him. Maybe. Who knows? Regardless, that's not what we're talking about. He is going to get traded. It is unfortunate because Cooper Kupp, just a few years ago, he was the best receiver in the NFL. Had his big, when they won the Super Bowl in LA, it was just That was a great year, but has not been the same player since. So I can understand it. That tells me that they're probably going to draft a wide receiver in the first round. Probably. I would like to see the Rams. I don't know if he'll fall that far, but Egbuka out of Ohio State, that seems like a really good fit there. Because, Cooper Kupp, quick, shifty slot guy. Egbuka, quick, shifty. He's a slot guy, right? So that checks out. Luther Burden is also an option there as well. Maybe Isaiah Bond if it falls to the second. Some of these guys that can kind of fit that mold a little bit. And then, well, no, maybe not Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond's more about deep speed, more than route running ability. But Egbuka. I really like Emeka Egbuka in the Rams in the first round. That'd be a really good pick right there. But anyways, let's move on to the news. Let's move on to more news. I'm kind of rambling at this point. The next one, the Texans hire Nick Caley, the Rams tight ends coach and pass game coordinator, to be their next offensive coordinator, the guy to take Bobby Slowick's job. I like this move. I don't know much about Nick Caley as a coach, but looking at it at face value, he's coming from the Sean McVay tree, which coaches that have come from Sean McVay's offense have proven to bear a lot of fruit, right? You look at Zach Taylor, you look at Kevin O'Connell. Those are two big names, right? You got Matt LaFleur. So, I mean, there's plenty of guys from that coaching tree that have been successful on the offensive side of the ball. I like it. It's a safe option. It's a good place to look if you're looking for an offensive coordinator. But the point still stands that I made when Bobby Slowick was fired. You're going into year 3 with CJ Stroud. And year 3 for quarterbacks is usually when they make that big jump. The big jump. Right? You got your rookie. Okay, having some up and downs. Your second year, okay, you play a little bit more consistently. You're looking good. You're improving. And in the third year, okay, you make that big jump and now you're like top of the top. Right? That's the idea. That's what you want. So for the Texans, CJ Stroud, they need to make this jump, and this offensive coordinator move better be right. Because if it's wrong, the time that they've spent the past 2 years building this team will be severely halted, if not ruined, for that matter. So I like the move. I'm optimistic about it, but definitely does not change how important it is for this move to be the right one. Next up, the Jaguars. Got a couple Jaguars things going on here. The first one, they requested to interview Bucs assistant general manager Mike Greenberg to be their next GM, which, first off, for Jacksonville, I don't know why you're still looking for a GM. You're behind the 8 ball on this point. Free agency opens in a few weeks. Like, what are we doing here? Like, come on. You know, all these other teams have their GMs and they're ready to go. Well, no, they're ready to have a GM? I can't remember. But either way, most of these teams, you know, in their situation, got their new GM, got a new coach, you know, all that's set and they're working right now. And the Jaguars can't do anything until they get a GM. They really can't do anything until they get a GM and get everybody aligned on that vision that they want to, you know, to take this organization into the future. But honestly, the Bucs rejected 2 interviews from their coaching staff to interview in Jacksonville. I don't know why they'd reach out to the Bucs again, considering how unprofessionally Liam Cohen left that job in Tampa, left such a bad taste in their mouths and a bad taste in Bucs fans' mouths. I don't know why you're continuing to reach out. That's weird to me. That's really weird to me. Like, you're going to leave somewhere on bad terms, and then you're going to come back and say, oh, can I interview this guy? Can I interview this guy? No, you can't have it both ways, dude. This can't happen. I'm not saying Liam Cohen's calling the shots right now, but that's not something that's just not a right move. But they did hire Jaguars Hall of Fame tackle Tony Boselli, naming him the team's executive vice president of football operations. I can like this move. It reminds me kind of like a John Lynch going to be a GM, where you get a former player that Hall of Fame level work, you know, knows a standard. He was there. Well, if John Lynch wasn't, but Tony Boselli, he was there when Jacksonville had their best years as a franchise, so he knows what that looks like. He knows what needs to happen. He's also an offensive lineman, right? The Jaguars need help on the offensive line, so that makes sense. I like that. And as long as you're, you know, I don't mind hiring players into executive roles or coaching roles. The thing is just to make sure that you give them time to learn and adjust to, because playing in the NFL and coaching the NFL or working from being a player to being in the front office, it's completely different. It's completely different. And so same thing with developing young players. You got to give them the patience and the time to properly adjust to their new role and their new responsibilities. You never want to put too much on someone's plate, because that's where they fail. That's why young quarterbacks fail all the time. That's why so many first rounders fail, is because they put too much on their plate too early and they just can't handle it. Next up on the list, the Ravens extend offensive coordinator Todd Monken. I don't know how long the extension is for. That hasn't been released yet at the time of the recording of this video, but congratulations to Baltimore. This move was necessary. They needed to make this move. Todd Monken got the best year out of Lamar Jackson's career, the best offense statistically that the Ravens have ever had. So keeping him here, keeping the consistency, love the move. Good that he wants to stay. That tells me that Baltimore is going to be back in the playoffs next year, but I mean, that's way too early to say now. But at the same time, is anyone really going to doubt that? But either way, great move for Baltimore, keeping him around. And then the last bit of news I have on this list, the Raiders hired Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator from Ohio State, to be their offensive coordinator. I'm mixed about this move. I'm very mixed because Chip Kelly, if you guys remember, he was the head coach in Philly for a long time, not a long time, like 4 or 5 years, and it ended on bad terms. It was ugly. The players didn't like him. People didn't like how his, he kind of, he's known as a college coach, right? He was at UCLA before he went to Philly, really good over there, but he tried, taking that college mentality of coaching players and brought it to the NFL, which doesn't work because you're teaching 18-year-old kids versus 20-plus-year-old, 30-plus-year-old grown men. It's different, right? So that is a little bit interesting. That coaching philosophy style, I don't know how much that's going to translate. Not to mention his offenses in the NFL in general never translated well. It first started off well, but then it fell off and got old really quick. And then he went to San Francisco after he got fired from Philly, and then that also was a complete disaster. I think they went 2-14 in the first year under him, and I think he got fired. I think it was a one-and-done coach, or maybe two-and-done coach. But I will say, though, there is a caveat where maybe he does well, right? You look at Cliff Kingsbury, mostly known from his time in college, right, and his offenses. So he did well with Jaden Daniels, right? Then you look at Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator in LA with the Chargers, that just came from Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. He played really well and turned that defense around overnight. So maybe they're looking to get the same thing. You get the best offense in college football, arguably. You look at what they were able to do with Will Howard at quarterback, right? There's some people that are, really high on Will Howard now because of what he's done, especially in the CFP national championship. And maybe, you look at Chip Kelly, his age, right? And with the head coaching track record, he's not going to be a head coach anymore in the NFL, I don't think. So you got a guy that, has a lot of experience that's going to be there for a while, you would think. Not a whole long time, right? Because the guy's in his 60s or his 70s. But you want a guy that's going to be there for a while and at least, stabilize the franchise and stabilize the offense. So there is that. So there's reasons to like and not like the move, but I'm interested. I know they obviously hired Pete Carroll earlier, a few weeks ago. So maybe you get a bunch of older guys in here, a lot of experience. I like the idea. We'll just have to see how well it plays out. But officially, that is going to do it for me today, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hitting those 2 buttons helps me out tremendously in continuing to spread my football passion to more and more people on this platform. Along with that, making sure you leave a comment down below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the news, on the Super Bowl. Why do you think I'm wrong for picking the Chiefs to win? I really want to hear why. Would love to hear those thoughts. And of course, make sure that you guys are sharing the video, whether it's spreading by word of mouth or sharing it on social media, getting everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys every Wednesday at 8 a.m. This video actually dropped on Tuesday. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the episode. But hey, you guys got this early, so whoop-de-doo, guys. That's a W for you. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. I will see you guys next week. I'm going to be making a community post here because I'm going to be working on a project that you guys are going to see next week called the Shumake Take Awards. First thing here, I will make a community post later on in the week talking more about it. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.